Hello children, let me welcome you to the virtual class of the Brihan Mumbai Mahanagar Palika. My name is Shraddha teacher. Children, we are in the middle of this COVID-19 pandemic, and because of that we are not able to go to school, but that doesn't mean we are going to stop learning. So we are going to do many lessons which are very interesting from your textbook through the virtual class here. So let us do a lesson in English today. Our lesson for today, children, is a lesson in Standard 9th and subject of course is English. So now the name of the lesson is lesson number 3.4 in your textbook, How the First Letter Was Written. Now this particular lesson is in a very funny way if you take it. You can see there is a lot of fun in the lesson and there is a lot of misunderstanding because of which this fun is created. But at the same time, if you think about it deeply, you will understand what the importance of the written language or the importance of knowing words, letters, etc. in a language is. What the importance of reading and writing is. And what is the kind of trouble that you can fall into if you do not know how to read and write. So this letter, which was written first in this particular lesson or in this particular story, it is not at all a letter which is written using letters and words, but it is a letter which is written using different kind of figures. And that is exactly what leads to this misunderstanding. Okay, so now before we learn more about the lesson or the story, let us start by understanding a little bit about the other things which are associated with the story. So we will start by talking about the person who has written this particular story. So now his name was Joseph Rudyard Kipling, or J.R. Kipling like we know him. He was an English journalist. He was a short story writer, a poet and a novelist. And he was born in India, and that is why most of his work, you will see, it is set in the Indian context. So he was born in India, which inspired much of his work. Kipling's work of fiction include the very famous story of the Jungle Book. Now we have at some time or the other in our life, we have seen or we have read the story of Jungle Book. That is a story of Mowgli and Bagheera. Okay, so this story was written by Rudyard Kipling. Okay, so now what is the story about, children? The story is about a particular stage in the development of mankind. So you know that when human beings, we look like this today, but we were not like this at all. Okay, see, if you see this picture, you see how we have developed from being apes to slowly how we have become what we are today. I'm sure you know about this because we have studied this extensively in your standard 5th EVS. So we know how we have developed and what were the various stages. Now this particular story is related to the Neolithic man. That is when human beings were in the Neolithic stage of development. So this story has occurred in that particular stage. So this story is the story of the Neolithic man. Now look at him. Look at the picture of this Neolithic man. Do you think he knows to read and write? Of course not. Okay, he doesn't even know to cover himself properly. And he doesn't know to use any modern weapons. So definitely there is no point in discussing whether he is educated or not, whether he knows to read and write. I even doubt whether he knew how to speak any particular language. But we will see a very interesting and amusing story about the Neolithic man here. So the life of a Neolithic man was pretty much like he was a nomad as far as his life was concerned. So he used to live in caves. He did not have any particular permanent dwelling or permanent house. He used to live in these caves and he used to gather food from the forests, or he used to fish in the rivers. Okay, he used to hunt animals and he used to make a living for himself and for his family. So he used to also do a little bit of farming. All right. So this is about the various capabilities of the Neolithic man. He could not go beyond this. That is, he could not read or write or communicate properly. But in the particular story that we are going to see today, there was a particular situation where this Neolithic man had to convey some message. So when you convey a message, what do? You either speak on the telephone, or you send a message on WhatsApp or Messenger, or you write a letter, or you send an email. But those are all situations and things which you do today in the modern world. But in those times, now the situation was such in the story, there was a particular problem which had come up, and they had to anyhow communicate it, and they were now perplexed. They did not know what to do, and therefore they wrote a letter in the form of symbols and drawings. Okay, so we will see that when we come to the story. So come on, let's do one exercise from the warming up part before we go to the actual story. So you're supposed to list the materials that man used for the following purposes in different ages. Now I told you that we went through different stages of evolution. We went through different times when we developed slowly and slowly and slowly to become the modern man or the modern human being that we are today. So what all materials have we used through the times, through the different ages? Let us see today. So this is also an image from your textbook. So you will see exactly the same image in your textbook. So you will try to fill in the answers, and then you will come and check with my answers. Your answers and my answers may differ. Okay, you might find a different answer and my answer might be different, but that doesn't mean you are wrong. So what kind of weapons did the Neolithic or the Stone Age man? Now we had the Stone Age, the later Stone Age, and the earlier Stone Age. So the Neolithic age is the later part of the Stone Age. So what weapons they used to use? They used to use a stone, bones, or animal teeth. Now in this particular lesson also, in this particular story also, you will see that they have used the tooth of a shark as a weapon, or as a, you can say, a kind of a thing which he has used for a particular purpose, for writing. In the first century, that is Christian era, weapons were made up of wood, steel, or iron. In the modern age today, weapons are made up of steel, plastic, or even synthetic. Okay, what about fuel? Fuel means to get warmth, to generate energy. What kind of things did the Neolithic man use? So the Neolithic man pretty much used only firewood. They used to gather firewood from the jungle and they used to burn it. Okay, they used to make use of flint stones in order to create spark to burn the firewood. And this firewood, they would use it for cooking also, to keep themselves warm also, and also to keep the wild animals away. Then in the first century CE, human beings started making use of coal along with firewood. And now in the modern age, all of us know, we make use of petrol, we make use of coal, natural gas, firewood, and of course we make use of electricity also nowadays as a fuel. You have these induction cookers, you have the induction gas stoves which make use of electricity in order to create energy. What about utensils or vessels which were used? So during the Neolithic age, vessels were made of stone or bones, because we did not know the technology to develop other things in order to make vessels. Whereas in the first century CE, we started making use of wood, silver, copper, clay, even gold. The people who were from royal families, that is kings and queens, they used to eat in vessels made up of silver and gold. And now in the modern times, we have silver, steel, glass, paper, copper, and so many other things also, which we are not supposed to use. For example, we use thermocol also a lot, okay, which is not very good, which is leading to a lot of pollution around us. So these are the vessels which we use in the modern age. What about food? Now this is going to be very interesting. So think about what all things you eat in today's times, and then let us see what the people in the Neolithic age used to eat. So they used to eat different kind of meats. They used to eat fruits and crops. And we all know that they knew how to use fire. So they used to cook these things and eat. Whereas in the earlier Stone Age, we have people say that they used to eat all these things raw. Now you can of course eat fruits and vegetables raw, but imagine eating a raw meat. Okay, so they used to eat foods which were cooked in the later Stone Age. In the first century, they used to eat crops, fruits, vegetables, and meat. All right, and then in the modern age now, you think about what all things we eat. We have ready processed food in today's times. So you don't even need to cook. You can just heat it up, put it in a bowl of hot water, or put it in the microwave, and your food is ready to be served. What about clothes? Neolithic man did not know to wear too many clothes. So he used to make use of animal skin, plants, etc. to cover his body. So the main aim at that point of time was to cover your body and protect your body. But nowadays we use clothes in the form of a decoration for our body. We want to see who wears the best clothes, who wears the branded clothes, etc. In the first century again, we made use of wool, lines, and silk, fibers, leather, etc. in order to cover and protect our bodies. And in today's times, we make use of cotton, linen, wool. I think the lines here means linen. Okay, that is again a typing mistake. Cotton, linen, wool, silk, and we also started using synthetic material, that is artificial material like nylon, terracotta, etc. So this is about the very first exercise where we have done this in order to highlight the differences in the way of life. All right, the way of life of early human beings and the way of life today. So this is how different our lives were. Let us move on and let us look at the story now. So this is the story of how the first letter was written. Now, when I tell you about the story, you will understand that it has got to do with nothing with writing. Okay, it has got to do with scribbling and drawing. This is what the first letter looked like. So there was nothing, not a single word which was written, but it had more to do with a kind of scribbling, you can say, or a rough drawing. Okay, and we will first start by looking at the various characters in the story. Now these characters had very amusing names. Okay, but we will call them by their short forms. So the first and the most important person, the head of the family in this character, is Tegumai Bopsulai. His name is Tegumai Bopsulai. I told you, amusing name. What is the meaning of this name? Man who does not put his foot forward in a hurry. That means a man who is somewhat lazy. He doesn't want to work quickly. Now there he had his wife, and the name of the wife was Teshumai Tevindro. Now Teshumai Tevindro, we will call her as Teshumai in short. And Tegumai Bopsulai, we will call him as Tegumai. Now what was the meaning of this name? Teshumai Tevindro. It means lady who asks a very many questions. Means someone who's very talkative, someone who's very inquisitive. But we will call her Teshumai. And then they have a little girl, a little daughter whose name is Taffymai Metalumai. But we will call her Taffy, because if we keep saying these big names, that is if we keep saying Tegumai Bopsulai, and if we say Teshumai Tevindro, or if we say
Taffy, Metulumai. Then the whole lesson will go in taking their names only. So we will call this beautiful little girl as Taffy. Now, what is the meaning of Taffy Metulumai? The meaning is small person without any manners who ought to be spanked. That means she is a very mannerless girl and she deserves a thorough beating from her parents. So, in short, what will we call her? Lovingly, we will call her Taffy. So now this is a story which begins when Taffy and her father Tegumai, they go to the river. Now the name of the river is also Vagai River. And if you see, there are certain patches there. You can see as they are walking, and these patches are the beaver swamps. Beaver swamps means it is kichad or chikhal as you say. So if you step on it, you will sink in it. Okay, so these are the beaver swamps. So they cross the beaver swamps and now they want to catch fish. They want to spear some fish. So see, he's carried a spear with him, and for dinner naturally. Now that time they did not have supermarkets or malls or D-marts where you could go and buy your stuff. So you had to work hard. You had to go and fish to eat your dinner. So father and daughter, Tegumai and Taffy, they went out with a spear which was made up of shark teeth and wood. So there were shark teeth towards the end and the spear was made up of wood. Okay, but as he was walking and as he tried to catch some fish, before he could catch any fish, by mistake or accidentally, he broke the spear. So these two had gone to the river to catch fish for dinner. They would take the fish back home, and the wife, that is Teshumai, would make it for them. But unfortunately, before they could even catch a single fish, the spear, which was made up of wood, broke. And what was really unfortunate was that he did not even have another spear with him in spare. So Tegumai had forgotten to carry any extra spear. And now they were standing at the riverside and looking at the river. If you see, there were lots of fish jumping around. But unfortunately, the spear was broken and the spear could not be fixed. And somehow he sat trying to fix the trying to fix the spear. So he pulled out his leather bag and he tried to tie or mend the spear. But then he said that there are a lot of fish over here, but by the time I finish mending the spear, it will take me half a day and all the fish will go away. So Taffy had an idea. She said, "Can I go back home and bring your spear? I'll go to Mama and I will ask Mama to give me the other spear." But then Tegumai said, "It is very far off and you might just fall into a beaver swamp." There were so many beaver swamps I showed you. He said, "You will fall into a beaver swamp and then you will die. So no, you should not go. I will try and mend this." So he removes his leather mendy bag and he tries to mend his spear. Now Taffy also sat down, waiting for her father to mend his spear. She said, "Oh, there is so much which I could have done." She says, "I could have written a letter and I could have sent the message to my mother to get or send me a new spear. But oh, alas, unfortunately, I do not know how to write. So that is so bad." So see, if you are illiterate, there are many times in your life, if you don't know to read and write, there are so many occasions in your life where you will have to regret. All right. Just then there was a stranger who was coming down the river. He was coming walking along the river, but then he belonged to another tribe. Now that time there were different tribals. Now see, people in Maharashtra, they speak Marathi. People in Andhra Pradesh, they speak Telugu. So Maharashtrians, they will not know how to speak Telugu, and people who are from Andhra, they will not know how to speak Marathi. So this was the same story. Now he was from a tribe called as the Tevaras. And now he did not understand Tegumai's language, he did not understand Taffy's language, and Taffy did not understand this Tevara man's language. So that was also a big problem. So when he came, Taffy tried to tell him to go and tell her mother to give her another spear. So see, Taffy is telling that person, come here. Do you know where my mummy lives? Now the stranger man or the Tevara man, he did not know one word of what Taffy was saying. But he understood that there is some problem. Okay, but then Taffy, he was not able to understand a single word and he was wondering what Taffy is saying. Finally, what he did was he tore a bark from a birch tree to tell Taffy that just like the bark is white in color, in the same way, I have a very clean heart and I will not trouble you in any which way. Okay, he said that I have a heart which was as white as the birch bark and he will not do any harm to them. But now Taffy did not understand what he wanted to say. He said, oh, so you want to know where my mummy lives? Of course, she said, I will tell you where my mummy lives. I can't write, but I can draw pictures if you give me anything sharp to scratch with. Then she saw the necklace hanging around the Tevara man's or the stranger man's neck, and on the necklace there was a shark tooth. So the Tevara man or the stranger man was wearing a shark tooth necklace. So Taffy pulled away the shark tooth necklace and she removed the shark tooth and she started scribbling a message for her mother. Okay, but then now anyways she lay flat on her stomach and she made use of the birch bark with her legs high in the air like some people do when they lie down on the drawing room floor to draw pictures. In the same way she said, I will draw some beautiful pictures and you can take it to my mother and then my mother will understand what I want to say. So first what did she do? She tried to draw her daddy doing the fishing. See, her daddy is doing the fishing, but then now her daddy was not looking like daddy, but then she could not draw very well. Okay, so she said mummy will know that it is daddy, and then slowly because the shark tooth slipped, it looked like the arrow is in the middle of daddy's back. Okay, so it looked like her daddy is injured. And then she also drew her hair. Now her hair was all sticking up, it was all standing up. So when does your hair stand up? Your hair stands up when you are scared, when you are frightened. So now see here, her father, because of a slight mistake or a movement of her hand, it looked like there is a arrow on her father's back, and it also looked like Taffy is scared. Okay, and then she also drew the stranger man. All right, but the stranger man was standing with a spear in his hand. She wanted to tell her mummy that I want you to give the spear to the stranger man. So finally her picture looked like this. Can you see how difficult it is? It looks like Taffy is very scared. See here, look at the arrow. Taffy is scared and her hair is standing on an end, and the stranger man has got a spear in his hand and he is killing Taffy's father. So, can you see how messages which are not written in words can be misinterpreted? See how the message looks so different from actually what Taffy wants to say. Now, the Tawara man or the stranger man, he decided to go on his way and he decided to find Taffy's mother for her. So he rushed with the birch bark in his hand, and on the way, he saw some women sitting and talking, a group of Neolithic women sitting and chatting. And when he saw her mother, okay, he understood that this is Taffy's mother. He saw Teshumai and her face was so similar to Taffy. So he understood that this is Teshumai, Taffy's mother. and he gave her the bark to read. Now you can imagine what must have happened. She got a big shock of her life because when she saw the bark, she thought that the stranger has killed her husband and her daughter is very, very scared. Immediately, all the women together, they pounced on the stranger man, and the poor fellow, he went to do a good thing and see where he ended up. Okay, now there is some more part of the story which is remaining. So if you look at your English workshop part, the very first exercise is asking you to read the remaining part of the story. So do that. All right. By the time, let us discuss what is important to understand in the story. So this story, in a way, highlights how it is very, very important for us to know to read and write any language. If you use symbols, if you use a drawing in order to get your message across, sometimes your drawing or your message might be misinterpreted. Now here the women thought that this man, he has killed Tegumai and he has killed Taffy, and he has the bravery to come and tell us also that he has done it. So they gave him a sound thrashing. Okay, so in this part of the video, we have seen the story and we have also talked a little bit about the author of the story, that is Rudyard Kipling, and we also saw an exercise about how the times have changed for us human beings. Now the assignment that I leave you with is the first exercise in the English workshop part, that is you have to read the remaining part of the original story. So see where you can manage to do it. You can also try to read it on the internet. Okay, so if you open Google and if you type the name of this lesson, that is how was the first letter written, you will be able to see the story, and then you will try and read the story and see how funnily the story ends. So what do you think must have happened? Let's make a guess. What do you think must have happened? These ladies must have gone, and did they actually see Tegumai and Taffy lying dead? What must have happened? And did they regret their decision later? And did they decide that yes, we have to learn to read and write? So I will leave you to think about what the story could end like. And when I come again with the same lesson, we will do the remaining part of the lesson. That is, there are some exercises in grammar and vocabulary which we will look at next time.
So children, wasn't that a very interesting lesson? I'm sure you learnt a lot of new things in this lesson. If you have liked this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe to my video so that you will get to see all the videos which I keep posting regularly.